welcome back. Tales from the Cassette. I think we're now on episode 14. We're in the teens, moving right along. I'm Jeff Beach.
I'm Joey Graves.
Thanks for watching our last episode. We had a special guest on. If you haven't seen it yet, Mr. Brian Leachy joined us to talk about favorite guitarist. Good episode, and I still got the board here. I'm gonna keep it forever of his Stevie Ray Vaughan. I would have never guessed that at the top. So, but good episode. And then the same day, we went to a concert that night.
We
and
did.
Saw Van Halen tribute band Panama at the Blue Note in Harrison, Ohio, with leading off the Sammy Hagar tribute band. There's Only One Way to Rock, I think is that right? I think that's right.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and Sammy Hagar, I mean, I've never met Sammy Hagar, but I would guess that this guy that was leading that band was probably pretty close to the real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he sounded great.
Yeah. And I'm talking about even in personality.
Yeah, but yeah, he was a bit inebriated toward the end of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
But friendly guy, great singer.
Yes.
On the opposite end, the David Lee Roth of the Van Halen tribute band was suffering from laryngitis and almost canceled the show. Earlier that day. So
yeah, it was interesting. A couple songs into that, after listening to the Sammy Hagar version, and they're doing all the Sammy Hagar songs, and then, he's obviously playing the part. He's got all the dress on that you would see David Lee Roth wear, and then he starts singing, and you're like, "Whoa, what's wrong?" And you're wondering, is like, I don't think he's going to be doing this much longer in life, but. A couple songs in, he did admit he had laryngitis, needed help from the band. Sammy Hagar would come up and help him out in singing every now and then. All in all, I thought it was pretty good considering his voice. I wouldn't mind trying to see him again. The rest of the band was, I thought, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable. I mean, what was it? $13, $14, something like that? I mean,
mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really, I thought it was really good. Good show, well worth the entertainment. All of us friends got to get together to go to the show, so always appreciate that. And we'll have to do that again here soon. Of course, speaking of concerts, you and I did find out that we both missed Ace Frehley, who was within an hour of here.
Yeah, hour and a half for me, but yeah, I had no clue.
I didn't either. I've been following the Gene Simmons tour and watching for that, and I completely missed that Ace was in town. I saw a couple of videos from it. Looked like it'd be good. Small venue.
I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Enjoyed going.
Small venue.
Meet up with a bunch of friends of ours from our hometown.
We could have done a remote podcast.
That was suggested, yes.
That was suggested. Next time we'll have to get that. But that would be a show. I'd see Ace. He's still pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that he's 75 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, all of them really. I mean, all of them. Paul's 73 now. I think.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I watched I don't know if you've seen it, but they released a 20-minute version of their final show at Madison Square Garden on YouTube. So basically, from the start to the finish, they did, real small clips of different parts of the show. So if you want to see really what happened at that final show, which is a lot like their other concerts, you can go find that YouTube clip. And it was put together by Kiss, sort of a, short version of the entire concert.
So how old is Don?
How old is who?
Don, your dad.
Oh, he is 80.
80. So how old's your mom?
She's 75.
All right. So can you imagine like your mother dressed up and running around stage and 30 pounds of equipment and being hoisted to the rafters and flying over the crowd?
I use that example. I don't use really the Kiss example, but I use the Rolling Stones example. anytime they tell me how old they are. And I'm like, well, Mick Jagger just danced on the stage for 4 hours, so I think you can do it.
You can walk around the block if Keith or if Mick Jagger can run around for 2 hours. So
I mean, if Keith Richards can still do that after all the things that he's done to his body over the years, I have hope. Probably we're on some wrong regiment, though. Instead of doing the exercise and various things, we need to do the Keith Richards. Yeah, I think in the 80s, he was on a steady diet of cocaine and alcohol and no sleep.
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
Yeah,
so,
and he's still moving moving along.
He's that 1%er.
He's that 1%er. All right. Well, tonight, actually, since we've been talking about Kiss a little bit, we're going to talk about on this show, and then on the next show, we're going to make it a double Kiss discussion. And we're going to discuss each of our favorite albums that are at the top of our list, which will probably match pretty well when we did our top. Did we do top 10 or top 5 albums way back when?
Seems we like a year ago. We did from all the way from the all studio.
Oh, we did the whole ranking. So tonight we're actually going to talk about a single album, and we're going to discuss Kiss's "Rock and Roll Over" from 1976, which is my favorite Kiss album. And in prep for this, I've listened to it a lot, obviously, and 3 of the songs are on my Kiss favorites playlist if I pull that up. And but it is I listened to it again this week, and I think it's just an outstanding album. It's really
fantastic. It really is. It's a good album.
It really embodies what they were at that time and how big they were. It's funny because of all the Kiss albums that I probably know, of all the Kiss albums, this is probably the one that I listened to last. If I was going to, think about how I found these albums, because this one is tucked nice and easy in between Destroyer, which is hugely popular. Of course, It's got Detroit Rock City, Beth, on all that on it. The next album after this is Love Gun, massive album. And then you got Alive 2 that came out. And then, the solos and Dynasty and all that, which were, at least from a listening popularity standpoint at that time, were big. And so this album's kind of got tucked in there. I was looking at the dates today, and I think we've talked about this before, but it's just fascinating to me when they were releasing this album. And so what was the date? So in 1976 in March, they released Destroyer, which kind of puttered along for a little bit until the radio stations discovered Beth. And then when Beth started getting airplay, it shot all the way up into the top 10 later that year. And then at the end of the year, so Destroyer is still becoming, I guess, more popular. And then they released Rock and Roll Over, which really doesn't have it. Well, it has one hit that went into the top 20, Hard Luck Woman, we'll talk about. But so they released that in November, and then in June they released Love Gun. So it's basically you have an album for 6 months, and then you go to the next one.
Yeah.
And then you had Alive 2. And
we read a lot of books and a lot of things about Kiss, obviously. I mean, they were either recording, touring.
Yes.
I mean, that's all they did. Record, tour, write, record, tour, write.
Yep. And right after this, that 1977, they were Gallup named them the most popular band in America. So they were huge at this time and just dumping. I mean, I can remember when you and I would wait until the next album was released when we were in high school, and between Animalize and Asylum and Crazy Nights. And I mean, you're talking a couple years. You're like, man, we need some new music. I can't imagine what it was like back then. If you're a huge fan and you're going to buy these albums, that you're like, oh, 6 months later, here's some more music. And then when the Live 2 comes out, and it's got more songs on it as well that are new. So,
But at the time, we were 6, 7, 8 years old.
yes,
So
yes,
we didn't appreciate new music coming out every 6 months, and
right,
we didn't.
right, yeah, and like I said, so when I would listen, so Destroyer would have been on my in my collection because of how popular it was. I know Love Gun was as well. This one was not. So this is one like later on that I started listening to after some of the other ones. I can remember listening to Dynasty and Unmasked even before this one. But as I continue to listen to this, I love this one more and more, and think it's almost a perfect album by them.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think if I recall, this was in my top 5.
I think it was.
I believe so.
Yes, I believe it was. Now it's interesting, leading up to this. So they did Destroyer, which was a massive album, but it was also a departure from their previous albums. They did a lot of funky stuff with Bob Ezrin producing. You've got a lot of different sounds on that album than the previous Kiss album. So they decided they wanted to strip it back here, make themselves a rock and roll band again. And so all the things that you saw on keyboards and piano, whatever else they had on the Destroyer album, it was just the 4 of them playing. And I went looking because what happens with Kiss a lot is that you have, ghost performers on the albums, but I couldn't find anything for this one.
I think it's Love Gun was the last one with the 4.
Okay. So it looked like they did, and they performed in an old theater. And if you listen to the album, it kind of has that raw sound to it, not overproduced in any shape or form. It's great. When they perform these songs on live, and you can hear some of them on a live too. But even when the final show that I saw, they performed Making Love.
Yeah.
So,
it's, they had gotten rid of Bob Ezrin, who had produced Destroyer. And so I think they went back. He went to Eddie Kramer and established their rock and roll roots.
Yep.
And I think Rock and Roll Over is a superb album, and obviously we love it.
Yep.
And if somebody wanted to really discover what I believe Kiss should sound like,
that's the album.
That's the album.
That's the album. Or Love Gun. I think Love Gun is really an extension of this album. I think they sound very similar.
I don't think it sounds as good as this album, though.
No, I don't think so either. I think
the production quality.
Yeah, I think some of the songs on Love Gun you could mix and match here, and it could have been the same album.
Yeah.
They're playing a lot of the same type of stuff. Yeah, it was funny when I was reading about it that Ace and Peter were the ones that said, "Hey, we don't really like the direction this is going. We need to bring it back." And of all the wrong decisions they made over the years, they probably the right one. And then also, I've got this one behind me. This is by far the best album cover that Kiss has ever released. Right there. Outstanding cover. My favorite one. Yeah. When they performed Unplugged, that was on the floor underneath them. Yeah, it's great. Same artist that did this came back and did Sonic Boom in the 2013 time frame. When was that album released?
2009.
2009. So, which is another good album. But yeah, this is a great album cover. So, all right. Well, we're going to go through track by track.
Okay.
Track by track. So, right off the bat, we have a Paul Stanley tune, I Want You, which starts out nice and soft, kind of a love song. And then, a little acoustic guitar, and then it just starts pounding. I love this song because you've got massive guitars in it, and you've got Paul and Ace going back and forth on the guitar.
It's written by Paul.
Yeah.
I love the acoustic beginning of the song, kind of like Rock Bottom. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like Rock Bottom starts out with the
Yep.
acoustic guitar, and it's like all of a sudden just kicks in. So I appreciate that about I Want You. What's amazing to me about pretty much all the albums in that era, this album's 33 minutes long
Yes.
with 10 songs.
Yep.
That, I mean, 30 to 40 minutes, I believe, is where a album should be.
And a podcast.
And a podcast. Well, we're not very good at that, but
And a podcast. I agree. Yeah, this very short, extremely short album. It's funny when you're listening to it, it doesn't feel like it's flying by, the songs don't feel too short or anything like that. Yeah, one thing that I noticed throughout this album, and I think he takes a little bit of heat for his playing, throughout Kiss, because Peter Criss is not a hard rock drummer, or at least not seen that way. I think on this album is his best drumming.
I agree.
Yeah, he is. I think it's when you listen to these songs, I mean, he is pounding the drums, and he is a rock. A lot of times, I think he's more of a rhythm drummer, and some of the other stuff. But I think on this one, he's you really notice his drumming, and of course, that's probably some of the production too, where they brought the drums forward, like they did with Creatures of the Night. But I noticed it a lot on this album.
So it says, according to Wikipedia, so it has to be true because it's on the internet. To get the proper drum sound, Peter Criss recorded his tracks in a bathroom.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I saw, and they had. I saw they had like different part in the building. They would put different people in different parts, so things weren't bleeding over. Quite interesting the way they did that. All right, track 2, another Paul Stanley track. Take Me.
Take Me. Great song.
Great song. I believe, isn't Take Me on Alive 2?
No.
It's not on Alive 2. All right. I thought I had Alive 2 out, but I don't have it.
I don't believe so.
No. Well, so this was a co-write with Paul Stanley. So he wrote this with Sean Delaney. So Delaney was not I guess, connected with Bill Aucoin. Is that how you say that? Do I say that right?
Yeah, Bill Aucoin. Yeah.
Aucoin. Yeah. So this one is another hard rocker. The lyrics on this one are, pure Kiss. Yeah, it is. It's another great. I think it fits well with the song that leads off. I'm going to look up the Alive 2 while I'm doing, because I thought that.
Yeah, I've already done it. It's not on there.
It's not on there. Okay,
no.
There are 3 songs I think on there from this album.
Yeah, Ladies' Room, Making Love, and Calling Dr. Love.
Ladies' Room. That's the one that threw me off. Okay, well, Take Me is a really. I think it's another good one. Hard rock. Same thing before. Ace has got great solo on that song. Very good.
So you think about it, in '78, when they recorded the solo albums, these 2 songs, well, there's other ones by Paul.
Yeah.
That could have been on his solo album.
Yes.
This sound very similar.
Yes, they do. It's All Right, and some of the other songs that are on the solo album. Yeah, you can see, I mean, these things were all recorded so close together.
Yeah.
Between Love Gun, Destroyer, Love Gun, this one, Alive 2 songs plus solo albums.
And actually one of the songs on this album was on Gene Simmons' solo album.
Yes. So Take Me, another great song. The next one, a lot of people probably know, Calling Dr. Love.
Yep, the second single.
Mm-hmm. Second single. If you listen to demos from Kiss, this one is all over their demos, because this was a demo from not way back, but before this writing era. Gene had this other song called Bad Bad Lovin', and that's where this song came from.
It's a good song.
It is a good song.
I enjoy it. It's maybe it's just kind of, I've heard it so many times that It just doesn't grab me like it once did.
I think with this one, it's interesting. It's a perfect Kiss concert song.
Yeah, it's very good in concert.
Perfect in concert. Not one of my favorites to listen to. I do find it interesting that Katie Seagal from Married with Children is a background singer on this song.
As well as on his solo album as well.
Yes. So before she became anything famous whatsoever.
So do you think Katie Seagal was in Gene Simmons' Polaroid book?
It's highly likely.
I would say it's a given, yeah.
It is highly likely, yeah. So Calling Dr. Love, this is a concert staple. You're likely to always hear this one in concert. It is on Alive 2 as well. I was actually going to look and see what if it was on Alive 3. It was not.
I don't think so.
Not. Yeah, it was not. So, in fact, nothing from that era was on Alive 3. Pretty funny.
Now was Calling Dr. Love Gene Simmons like a last single until Unholy? I'm pretty sure.
I Love It Loud.
Oh, I love it. Okay, since I Love It Loud, the Creatures of the Night. Okay.
Yep. I Love It Loud.
All right. Yeah. Creatures of the Night to Revenge. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else in the middle there until Revenge. Unholy, then Domino. Yeah, but I think you're right. I'd have to go back and look and see. I don't think nothing came off Lick It Up. Nothing came off of Animalize.
Nope.
He was acting then. He had no time.
Yeah, no Asylum, no Crazy Nights.
No, I don't think it. I think they wanted something off Crazy Nights, but I don't think they had anything. And then Hot in the Shade, I don't think had anything.
Nope.
We're going to review those albums one of these days, Crazy Nights and Hot in the Shade, and how problematic those are. All right, we do have another Gene song, back-to-back Gene songs. It's pretty funny in later years how they alternate. But back here, it's like, hey, we'll just throw the songs on the way we want. In fact, we could talk about this at the end. This album, I think, could be reorganized into a different song list and probably be a stronger album. But Ladies' Room is up next, which is on Alive 2. It's all about Gene wanting to have sex.
Yeah, wait a minute. I will state that back then it was an LP. So at the end of track 5, you would physically have to get up and turn the record over.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that there was a pause, whereas he's listened to it on a CD.
Yeah, just keeps going.
There is no pause.
We're still on side 1 though.
Okay, I know. I'm just saying about the shuffling the track listing. So.
Right. Well, they had to fit it on the album correctly as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could have done some mix up here, but that's just me. But Ladies' Room. So Gene wants to have sex with women in the bathroom. Wrote a song about it, and that's what he's got here. It's actually a very catchy tune. If you love cowbell from Saturday Night Live, this song's got cowbell.
I really enjoy this song, but I prefer it. I prefer the live version on the Live 2. It is a really good song.
It's a good, highly entertaining song. Yeah, I think the chorus is fine. I think the rest of the song is actually better than the chorus.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
I did see that we're talking about. I don't think they had any additional players on this album, but I did see that Gene played rhythm guitar on this song for whatever reason. Yeah. So, and then side 1 comes to an end, which I think is one of the most interesting Kiss songs. Especially one of the most interesting Kiss songs that most people probably have never heard before. Baby Driver. You're frowning.
I don't really care much for I never really cared much for Peter Criss,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. So
close your eyes, pretend somebody else is singing it.
pretend Rod Stewart is singing it.
Yeah.
But,
I think this is perfect for him. And, he got kind of pigeonholed with Beth. And of course, we're going to talk about his other song that became a hit after Beth coming up. But this was a good rocking song. And actually, this was an old song that he brought from his band before Kiss and brought it to Kiss. And so actually, I think it's one of his better songs in the whole catalog.
I would say of the 10 songs on the album, that would be number 10 for me.
Yeah, I would put it up in front of. Yeah, I'd put it up in front of some of the other ones. I do like it. I think it's an entertaining song.
And that's why the world is a beautiful place, because you have your opinion and I have mine.
In fact,
so we can all live in harmony.
Because I listened to that earlier this week, for some reason, that's the song that's been in my head every day. So when I'm like walking around, not listening to music and just music's in my head, that's been the song. So I've been listening to it for like 48 hours now. Yeah, I think it's a highly entertaining song. His voice is perfect for that. And then, as you said, now it's time to turn the album over. Walk over to the record player, flip the album, and you get a Gene song, another song about sex. Love 'em, and leave 'em.
It's all right. The chorus is a bit how would I state it? Basic and kind of boring, just kind of repetitive.
Repetitive, yeah.
It's
this
repetitive
would be This would be my least favorite song on the album, probably.
This would be my number 9 on the album.
Yeah, this is the only one. It's interesting for an album that fell in between all these, where they were generating so much music that there's not much filler. This would be probably the filler song for me. They squeezed in, so it's okay. Not a whole lot different than a lot of the Gene songs. Nothing stands out.
Right.
You won't remember this one later.
I think Gene, every maybe 20, 25 songs that Gene writes that's on an album get you.
Yeah.
Whereas Paul, it's like 1 out of every 6 or 5 or 6, and that Paul's just a superior songwriter when it comes to
prolific
songwriting than Gene.
Yeah. Yes.
By far.
The next song reminds me sort of what we were talking about with Baby Driver, is a song that most people probably have never heard before, but is a great Paul Stanley song.
Yep.
Mr. Speed.
That's also one that could have ended up on his solo album. Sounds just like something on a solo album.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those deep cuts that I would say most Kiss fans maybe have not heard this or have not listened to it in a long time, but it's really got everything you want in a Kiss song. It's got great guitar, drumming is great, the bass is great in it. Paul's singing's the song's entertaining, the story they're telling in there. Yeah, one of my favorite like deep cuts of all the Kiss albums.
Yeah, I would agree. Mr. Speed is a great song, and I would have to put that one up there as probably my favorite song on the album.
Really? That's your favorite song?
Yep. Mr. Speed, Take Me, Ladies' Room. Those are my top 3 on the album.
I'll give you mine later because we still got a couple songs that I like. Next one. This song is on Rock and Roll Over. It's also on Gene's solo album as a slightly different version. See You in My Dreams. Yeah.
I think it became more Beatlesque on his solo album.
It did. Yeah, this one's a little more rockin'.
This is a little bit more rock and roll oriented. And he just wanted to rework it as more of a Beatles song.
This one's a little more rockin'. It's got a nice A solo on it. Not a super long one, but Yeah, it's a good song. It's kind of like Love 'Em and Leave 'Em. I don't remember much about it later after this. It doesn't stick in my head like Baby Driver did. Yeah. So
I mean, it's an average song.
That's another one. Not only is it on a solo album, but you can find a bunch of different versions of that song on in the vault.
Right. And one thing that sticks out to me of Rock and Roll Over, as there's usually something on every song that I like.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the solo, it could be the chorus, or how something is sang in the chorus, or there could be a note, or how the note was recorded from the guitar. There's something on each song that
grabs you.
That grabs me, yes. Even if I don't like the entire song, there's something about each song that I like.
Okay.
And I think that's why I like the album so much, because there is something on every song that I like.
Yep. Okay. I would agree with that. There's some, it is entertaining. I think there's a lot of interesting things that go on in the songs in this album. The next song is Rod Stewart joined them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've got Hard Luck Woman. So if you're listening to this and you think, oh, I know that song, it's because Garth Brooks sang it and made it more popular. But this was a top 20 hit at the time for Kiss, following up on Beth. So, which is highly interesting, I think, because Beth, of course, sang by Peter Criss, which is probably their least popular band member. And then he follows it up and he's got the next top 20 hit with Hard Luck Woman, which is a Paul Stanley song that he actually wrote for Rod Stewart. Yeah. And then decided that, I guess they heard it. Somebody heard it, said, hey, you should keep this song, have Peter sing it. He's got the voice, and it does fit well. It's actually a pretty good song, I think.
I enjoyed the song. Probably my favorite Peter Criss song.
Acoustic song, fits well. It's semi-country type song. It's been covered so many times after that, but it is a good song. I think Peter's vocals on that are really good. His scratchy voice.
Yep.
And fits real. I'm sure that I've heard Paul sing that before.
You have.
Yeah. That's what I thought. But it doesn't seem like that he's the best fit for that song.
Yeah, it's since he wrote it with Rod Stewart in mind.
Right.
And Peter Criss's voice back in 76 was very similar to Rod Stewart.
Right.
I mean, it
very similar.
You can actually close your eyes and picture Rod Stewart singing the song.
Yeah.
So kudos to Peter Criss on this one.
Yeah, when I was talking about album order before, this is where I'm thinking a song like this, we're at the second to last song on the album. A song like this would have fit well to break up some of those other songs during the album somewhere. Because
some of the harder ones.
Yep, and break it up a little bit. So, but the last song is one of my favorites on the album, Making Love. Sorry, putting a G in there. There's no G. This one, when I was talking about the drums before, this is one that I think you really notice the drums on and the guitars. This one is a pure rock and roll song. Yeah, it is on Alive 2. I love the Alive 2 version. I think I like this. I love this song, and I love the live version even more.
Yeah.
When they played this in the last concert, and of course they put the rock and roll over symbols all over the screens and everything. Yeah, that was my favorite part of the show. Now, Paul can't sing the same that he used to. No. This is a hard song to sing. But I think it's really good. I love the guitars in that song. One of my favorite things about this on the studio album, Kiss doesn't, when they're in concert, they're not jammers. They're not going to get up there and just play. They play their songs. There's a routine to it. They have a schedule. It's almost like a Broadway show. Right. They don't get up there and like some bands and just get up and jam.
Right.
But if you listen to the end of this song, it sounds like they're jamming. after the singing's over, and then they're just playing the guitar, and you go through and you think the song's over, and then they launch right back into it. Yeah, they don't do it on a live like that, but on the studio version, I love the way that song ends.
I mean, really, I know Sean Delaney. I think he had a solo album, a couple of solo albums, but every song that he touched on this album, Take Me, Mr. Speed, Making Love, he must have been a pretty talented songwriter himself.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing his name. I have to go back and look. I don't remember seeing his name.
So Sean Delaney was he was Bill Coyne's boyfriend, but he also I've read where he also came up with the choreography, especially during Deuce.
Oh,
that
which is
that was Sean Delaney did that.
Okay, all right.
So,
now my favorite song, probably my favorite song on the album is "I Want You," the leadoff song, and then some combination of "Making Love," "Take Me," "Mr. Speed" would be my next few favorites.
Yep.
Yeah, my Gene songs fall down. I do probably after that. I would say "Ladies' Room," "Hard Luck Woman," and then the others I think are a little bit more filler. "Calling Dr. Love," just because, like you said, we hear that one all the time.
Yeah. And then Ace Frehley makes his vocal debut on the next album.
Yes. Yeah, nothing. It's pretty funny. Nothing on here yet. He's coming closer to doing so, but not quite yet. And then then he puts out not too much longer. Less than 2 years later, he puts a solo album out, which most people consider the best of the solo.
The best one, yep.
My favorite song probably "I Want You." My least favorite song on there would be "See You in My Dreams."
That was probably down there on my list as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so great album. One of my favorites. I think even most Kiss fans at the day, back in the day, if you read some reviews of people that were Kiss fans in the day and they talk about this album, I mentioned it before, but because the time frame was just so tight, a lot of people just forgot that it was in there. So especially when you're collecting and it's like, oh, what did it go? Destroyer, then Love Gun? Because it was still a year. Not realizing there's an album right there in the middle. Pretty crazy to think about how close those things were coming out together.
Well, I kind of discovered Kiss at Love Gun, and then I had to go back to the first, and then make my way up.
Yeah, mine was a little bit later. I can remember from you getting the 8-track of Dynasty and listening to that. Now, I was listening to other stuff too. Like, I think I remember listening to Love Gun and borrowing some of your albums. The Elder, I can remember that. I don't remember this one at all. Destroyer would have been one that like I said, I don't remember this. And I can, a number of years later, I can remember, I'm going to listen to all, especially when streaming became so prevalent and easy to do. I'm going to listen to all these albums in order, one by one. And that's when I'm listening to this one thinking, wow, this is just an outstanding album. Yep. So that's my number one, Rock and Roll Over.
Good choice.
Good choice.
Good choice.
On our next show, we're going to do do you want to give a preview or are you going to keep it?
Well, I mean, we would love for you to go back and watch that episode about if you want to discover what my number one is. But
okay,
my number one is Asylum.
Oh, nice! We're gonna do an '80s album. That was gonna be my recommendation. I'm
pretty sure it was Asylum. I might have to go back and watch it myself.
Okay. Yeah, when we were talking about episodes for this show, I was thinking it's probably time to review one of those '80s albums.
I am one of the few that probably the Unmasked era is my favorite. I absolutely love Asylum. It is a great album, and sorely overlooked, in my opinion.
The you may have seen that they announced this week a new Kiss Off the Soundboard from the Asylum tour.
From Asylum, yep.
Yeah. So, which I don't think exists at all out there.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
But have you seen the artwork for like the T-shirts and all that stuff?
Uh-huh.
They lost me on that.
It's not for you.
You know, I would consider buying. I had the original Kiss Asylum tour shirt. It had the Paul and Gene and Eric and Bruce, and it was I love that T-shirt, and I would have probably bought another one if it had been the 4. I would have considered spending the $35, $40, whatever it is, for a T-shirt if it was the original cover of the album. I'm not going to do it for just Gene and Paul.
Yeah,
I'm just not. I'll listen to it, but
it's an interesting playlist from that era. I mean, it's mostly 80s. They weren't playing a ton of stuff from their 70s. It does open with Detroit Rock City.
Oh,
and it's got Cold Gin on it. Fits Like a Glove, All Night, War Machine, I Still Love You, Under the Gun, which I thought was an interesting one. Tears Are Falling, I Love It Loud, Love Gun, and then Rock and Roll All Night was not the end. They come back with Heaven's on Fire. The final song is Lick It Up, but in between those two, a song called Oh Susanna, which I am stumped on.
Oh Susanna, won't you cry for me?
It's not
however the lyrics go.
Yeah. That's they slipped that one in. So if you buy the albums, there's 6 sides, so 3 albums. So only 2 or 3 songs per side. So they were doing some things, talking, guitar solos, drum solos, in the midst of all that.
I mean, you had to hear, you have to listen to Paul tell a story about going to the doctor's office and a nurse unbuttoning his and pulling out his love gun.
Yes, we all heard that from the
she reached down. Yeah, I've heard it all. I heard it numerous times. So,
well, I mean, hopefully Asylum is the right one, and that's the one we'll talk about next. And then if anybody has any preferences for a future show, we've talked about Look It Up, and now we've talked about Rock and Roll Over. We'll do another one, and so there's lots out there. I just finished a book on the Elder. I know all about it now.
I'm halfway through it.
It's quite entertaining.
It's good.
Yeah. It's quite entertaining. So maybe we'll have to do an Elder show at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you and the listeners homework.
All right. Okay.
Have you heard? I think I told you about the remixed, redone version of The Elder. Have you taken the time to hear it?
I think I sampled it quickly when you told me about it.
You need to listen to it. It is fantastic.
Okay. What's the guy's name?
I'm trying to find the guy's name.
He's got a great version of Turn On the Night as well. We removed all the keyboards.
Yes, the same guy.
Guy.
Frankenstein something.
If you Google that, I'll tag him in the episode.
All right, so I want you to listen to that.
Okay. We're not doing the Elder though. We got to save that for our Elder discussion.
Right. It's Franken. It's FARNKENSTEIN Creations. So he's taken samples from other live on when they did Fridays and replaced solos, replaced guitars, replaced pianos from other versions,
and put it back together.
And he's totally redone the playlist, and it's really a more of a story of like the elder intended to do. And then for fun, I want you to have you heard Kiss Destroyer if it was recorded in the 50s?
I have not.
All right.
YouTube?